Hey everyone, this is Christian Heimel, host of Caught Listening. Thanks for listening to the following podcast on Public House Media.
Welcome to the Leadership Revolution podcast. We want to take a moment and say how happy and honoured we are that you have chosen to take time out of your week to join us today. We're excited to have you with us. If this is your first time listening, our vision is to build healthier families and communities through education and leadership, which begins by leading ourselves from the heart. We invite you to be fully present as you listen and judge later, because it's not easy to do both at the same time. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Hi, my friends. I am David, your host of the Leadership Revolution. I get the privilege to serve you every other week as your guide. Y'all, we are continuing this series, Where Do We Go From Here, the Education Edition, and I have Melody Glenn here. Melody, can you introduce yourself a little bit to our audience who are not familiar with you?
I'm an educator. I've been an educator for 27 years in public school and 1 year in private school. I do after school tutoring. I'm working toward becoming a specialist in reading so that I can help kids who have reading issues become better readers. And I'm about 3 to 5 years away from retirement. So I'm working on my new career.
So awesome. And just so you all have an outline of today's conversation, first and foremost, I want to understand Melody and her background, and then we're going to talk about where do we go from here as a result of COVID-19 interrupting not just everything, but more specifically education. So what drove you to wanting to get into education?
I was always seen as a teacher working with kids from a young age. Like I always volunteered from middle school with younger kids, whether it was softball or playing chess or playing basketball. I was always volunteering with the younger kids. And as I went to college, got ready for college, and I started preparing college, picked my career path, I realized I really like working with children, and I decided to become an educator.
That is so awesome. And is there like one time in your life where you like got that confirmation, like, yes, I'm supposed to be here? Did you get that aha moment?
Wow, there's been a few, because I've taught at one school for over 23 years at one school. So I've had, I'm starting to see my students' children come in. So that's some of the aha moments. And one of my students came in for career day, and he was like, "Oh, do you remember when we did this? This is what really made me like science." So, to see these people come back and tell their kids, "Oh, you're gonna be in Miss Glenn's class. I had her; she was great." That's like how I feel. It makes me feel like this is what I'm supposed to do.
Wow, that's so amazing, and I know those students are the byproduct of your investment in their lives. And I know this series is about where do we go from here. So, can you talk to us a little bit about how COVID has interrupted and shaking things up in your world of education?
Wow, it's been a major turnaround. I was already leaning toward working in my later career toward online and virtual teaching, but this has just It's giving me pause and giving me encouragement at the same time,
Mm.
because I see it from both ways. Because we were so abruptly stopped, it was like we didn't have to prepare. Usually teachers have all summer to think about, okay, what am I going to do this year? We have whole summer to write projections, even if they're not written, they're mental. Okay, I want to accomplish this year. And to be stopped like 4 months before the end of school was like, whoa, I didn't get to meet my goal. So it was trying to get your kids to meet their goals in a totally different way that they were not used to. And with me having primary students, it was really hard because I taught second grade last year. So we had just really started teaching how to log on to their system, how to get into the technology. And it was still a trial for these students to do it on a regular basis, because I work in a community where a lot of the kids their parents hold their hands still. Some communities, once they get in first or second grade, the parents are like, okay, you can do it. Let's see if you can do it on your own. But that's not the culture of my parents. They're very, okay, I'll do it for you. No, instead of letting them have free reign. And I had just really gotten them to that point, and they had to go home and apply this knowledge that I hadn't finished teaching them. So that's what made it very hard. So the first month was a trial and error, getting all the kids to log on, getting them to understand how to log on, and getting the parents to understand the importance of logging on. And then it wasn't even mandatory like the first 2-3 weeks for them to log on. We couldn't make them do it. So we were offering it, but we couldn't make them do it. It was not mandatory. They had already told the parents, oh, nobody's going to fail. Nobody's going to, so the parents were like, well, I don't have to do anything. And you're like, no, I got all these goals I want to reach. We still have 3 months. We still have 4 months. And the parents were like, I don't have to do anything. My kid is going to the next grade regardless.
Wow.
So that was very hard. And I deal with students last year I was in inclusion, which is regular students with learning disabilities together. So I had about a 50-50 mix.
Yeah.
So I really was trying to be on and be present for them so they wouldn't be lost. Because I had friends who, they met their kids once a week, maybe twice. And that's why the parents were in an uproar. I'm sitting here trying to get my parents to log on. Mm-hmm. And some teachers are like, I'll just send them what they have to do. They could turn it in. Whatever happens, happens. They're not grading it. And that was the attitude of a lot of parents and teachers. So now, come back in the fall, and now they're telling us still to go virtual. And the parents are like, no, because there was nobody to help my kids. And my kids had to do it all by themselves. And the few of us who were there for the kids were like, no, that's not what we did. But there was the majority left them alone. So it's been very hard to try to get the parents to buy in. We're only 3 days into school, and I still don't have 100%.
Wow. And you're in Miami, Florida, right?
Right. Right. I'm in Miami-Dade County.
Miami-Dade County. And oftentimes, right, in this situation, the students have a support system, which is the teachers like yourself. And then the teachers also become another support system for the parents and helping them navigate. Now, as far as for the teachers and parents like yourself, how are you getting support, or are you getting support in navigating this way, not just with technology, but emotionally?
There's been a big initiative in our county. Well, we're one county away from where it's Stoneman Douglas, the Stoneman Douglas massacre. So we know a lot of people that were affected, a lot of our parents, fellow teachers, and everybody knows somebody who went to Stoneman Douglas. So there's been a shift to aiding with mental health. And we have like at our school, we have a mental health support there once a week just for, we can fill out a form and say, okay, I need you to speak to this child. I need you to speak to this child because something is going on in their house or something is going on with them or we don't know. You can just give them that note and they'll have time with her. And if she feels they need it every week she comes, she'll meet with that kid. Yeah. So there's more of that. Whereas before we didn't have it. They only had the counselor, the regular counselor. So that's what makes it is different now. And we also have like phone-in support. Like there's a mental health office in the district where the parents can call in if they need help or if they need support. So that was non-existent over 2 years ago.
That's amazing.
So yeah. So I mean, like even as part of our introduction, there was an entire page of support that we had to photocopy. Not really photocopy anymore because we're not in school, but we had to take a picture of it and send it to the parents and let them know this is a list of contacts if you have any mental health issues. Yeah. We had to submit that to our parents as part of our opening package.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's powerful. And I know how life-changing that can become when we don't deal with it. And then when we do deal with it, it can literally become the make or break of our success or our demise. And I'm so excited to hear that because I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, so Stoneman Douglas, was a sister school to Plantation High School and South Plantation where I grew up, and having that support is incredible. And I'm grateful that there's a new initiative that you guys are doing down there. Now, as far as where does education go from here? Because it's literally been interrupted, and the idea of traditional schooling is not that way anymore. So where do you think education is going to make a pivot from this place?
Well, it was already shifting with especially in Florida, with the influx of charter schools, because with my oldest, who's 30, charter schools were like just starting out. So like she got into a charter school, but I decided not to send her. But a lot of her friends went to this charter school and they flourished. So it was like 1 in every 5 friends. Now it's like 50 to maybe 60% of the students in Broward County are attending charter. And in my end of the county, not so much. But it affects our school because one of the larger charter schools in the area is not too far from our school. So we lose a lot of our higher achieving students and a lot of our students that will be there from kindergarten through 5th to that charter school because it's there. It's they have like a lot of extra things. Charter schools give you a lot of extra things. For example, extra time. They give you special classes after school and this and things that public school can't necessarily give you without a lot of paperwork or a grant or something. They can easily put that in their manifesto that this is what we're going to provide to you. And just so that is one of the biggest things, the charter school. And then now on top of charter school, we have the new homeschool initiative where the higher achieving upper class children will probably now be geared toward homeschooling because there's so much more you can do. You can travel more. A lot of parents are traveling. A lot of parents are working different shifts. A lot of parents are seeing that the school is not helping their kids, especially a lot of the kids who have learning disabilities. They're not being serviced. That's one of the reasons why I'm working toward becoming a reading specialist, because we're finding out kids with dyslexia are not being serviced at all. They're not even being considered. It's hard to even get the classification, less long being placed into ESC unless you're failing. Whereas a dyslexic are normally on the higher IQ range. They might not be failing for having major learning issues and they have major learning gaps. But because they're not failing, they don't get help. So this is why I said the homeschooling charter school is probably about 25% will probably jump to 50 or more. That's how I see it in the future, because in talking to my kids' friends and my grandkids' friends and my friends who have kids still in school, at least 50 to 75% of them are not sending their kids back this year.
Wow. That's interesting you say that, because our two boys, they started attending public school, and then they wanted to go to online school, a private school. So we took them out of public school and we put them in a private online. And they were just like, we want to go back to public school. And then COVID happened, and they were told in our district here in Colorado Springs that there's going to be, children are going to be separated. They're going to be socially distant, and it's not going to be the same. So they mentioned, you might as well stay home. And my question to you, because there's going to be educators listening to this podcast, how can we prepare for an unknown future, and what can we start doing now to create a better education system where people have opportunity? What are your thoughts around that?
First of all, the public school system is going to have to be more flexible. They're going to have to start listening to their customers. The states, the National Department of Education, the State Department of Education, the school board districts need to start listening to their parents. Because as a parent and grandparent of kids, I'm pulling my kids out for the rest of the year. Because one, I see every day kids are coming sick. Parents, if they have to work, they could care less. I'm sending them to school, they'll call me. And guess what? We call some parents and those kids stay there all day sick. That's scary.
Yeah.
Because remember, we don't know what they have. We've had kids with fifth disease, chicken pox, stuff that you can get rid of in a week or two. And they're in school all day. Pink eye. They're in school all day. And imagine if they have COVID and the parents say, I'm not coming. There's nothing we can do. We have to keep those kids. So that's scary.
Yeah.
I've had, even in the short and abbreviated year, I had it happen 6 times last year, that the parent just didn't come. We called them and told them the kid was really not feeling well, running a fever. Okay. Someone's on their way. 2:15, the kid comes back to my room. That my mom didn't come, so I'm just going to be dismissed with this class.
Wow. No
phone number, no email, no contact information for anybody we can get in touch with. Even Dojo, we're big with Class Dojo, trying to keep in contact because parents don't want to give out their phone number. Even Dojo, they sometimes won't answer. So we're stuck with these kids. That's why when people say, oh, why won't teachers go back? That's one of the main reasons. We know what happens when we go back. We're babysitters. We're glorified babysitters. Yes, for educating their kids, but we're also maintaining them in one area from 7 to 6. Because most of them go to aftercare of some sort. They got breakfast, lunch, and snack. That's 3 things they don't have to worry about. They're not going to get hurt. And that's the big issue. So I really think the way things are going, it's going to be the middle and lower class children. Again, we're going to be stuck in these systems and nobody's going to care about it.
And that's,
because there's no rules for homeschool. That's what people don't realize. Yeah. There's no rules. Unless you want your kid to go to college. And if you have a kid that's, I'm not going to college, I'll be a plumber or whatever. There's no rules for homeschool. So they're going to have to come up with rules. They're going to have to make regulations. They're really going to have to come up with something. That's where we are now. There has to be a change. There's going to be a major shift. It was already coming, and this is like pushed it to the forefront. Because we have to stop seeing schools as babysitting services and seeing them for what they are. A place for the children to learn and to maximize their potential. Not just you throwing them there for 8-9 hours a day.
Wow. That's incredible. And a little disheartening. And to hear the reason why, students aren't coming back is because parents often see schools as a form of babysitting. And you said something that's very powerful that I want our listeners to take away with this conversation is flexibility. So the school system, the governments, the city, and everyone who enforces and encourages different regulations, listening to the parents, listening to the teachers, and hearing their needs and making that pivot. And like you talked about, there's going to be a massive change. And I think more than ever that parents, teachers, and a collective community is asking for something different. And I was speaking to a principal here in the Springs, and what he said was teachers are moving away from teaching concepts to actually teaching students how to think and empowering the students. And living in the 21st century world, we're going to be forced to use 21st century technology. And I think it is key, even in this moment, like right now we're talking on Zoom, but if you have 100,000 people on Zoom, it might crash because it's tech. So how do we overcome that? So you talked about flexibility, and I would add as well adaptability, because things are changing. And if we don't shift the way we lead and do things, then we become the Blockbuster of education versus the Amazon of education. And Melody, how can people get in contact with you if they're interested to connecting and learning more about what you do?
You can find me on Twitter. Oh, I don't remember my Twitter. I'm on under my name, Melody Glenn, on Facebook.
Okay.
And I don't even know my Twitter handle. That's a shame.
It's okay. You're on social media.
Yes, I'm on social media. You can find me under my name on Facebook. And one of the things I just want people to think about is that you spoke about adaptability. You spoke about being flexible. What we have to also think about is we got to make kids a priority. Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of the parents are, especially in this up and down economy, they're having to put their kids on the back burner to make a living, to provide. We got to still, no matter what we're going through, make up kids a priority and think about what's best for all kids and not some kids. Because, for an example, at my school, like I said, I'm at a mid to lower, like a mid-range school. We only had two to three computers per classroom in primary. Upper grades, it was priority because they know they need to adapt to be ready. But the younger grades was considered, they're not important yet. So if they have two or three, just enough for them to get on, it's okay. But now in this COVID era where everybody's home, now they're like, these kids don't know how to get on the computers. How often do you think they're getting on? How long do you think they're on? If there's only 3 and I have 20 kids, they're going to be on for about 10 or 15 minutes a day, maybe 20, because they're rotating on. And now everyone's thinking, we want them all to come back with everybody with their own device. Everybody with their own device, so now it's the whole shift in thought. Now, mind you, everybody should have had a device. There are school districts and other counties and other states that every kid has a device in the school. That needs to be a priority because technology is where it is. That's how they gain the most information. That's how you bridge gaps. So that's where we have to start thinking about making sure all children have access to the technology, starting at 3 or 4 years old. Because as we know, little babies and little toddlers walking around can work a phone. So give them a computer. Wow. Give them a computer. Sit them down and make it kid friendly. They have them. Give them a computer. Give them 10 or 15 minutes of computer time 2 or 3 times a day. Imagine where they'll go.
That's powerful. And that's what I want the takeaway to be for today is flexibility, like you talked about. And I added adaptability, and then you spiked it down with putting kids first and then giving them access to technology. Again, thank you so much, Ms. Glenn, for being a part of the Leadership Revolution podcast today. I am extremely grateful. Thank you again.
You're welcome. It was a great talk.
Yes, awesome. So again, I want you guys to remember flexibility, adaptability, and putting our youth first and giving them access to technology will change the way they actually learn. And I want to thank you all for joining us today. Come back every other Wednesday for a new episode. And I want you all to remember something. If we as leaders are to set ourselves apart, we must start by leading through love, which always comes from the heart.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Leadership Revolution podcast. We hope you were blessed. We value feedback from our listeners, so please leave a comment letting us know what you found helpful, challenging, or left you wanting to know more. New Leadership Revolution messages will be released every other Wednesday. Hit subscribe to be sure not to miss out. To stay in the know on our latest news, events and initiatives, follow Shepherd Revolution on Instagram, TikTok and Facebook. Thank you again for coming on this journey with us. We love you, and as you go about the rest of your day, we bless you to lead from your heart.